Jared Thorne was not a diplomat. He wasn't a hero. He wasn't even supposed to be on the spaceship. He was just a junior cultural assistant working in Earth's Interstellar Relations Department. His job mostly involved making coffee and correcting typos in long alien treaties. But somehow, today, he stood on the shining floor of the Galactic Unity Council's main chamber, wearing a suit that didn't fit and sweating under the lights of a dozen alien cameras. The real ambassador. Hellman had eaten something bad the night before, something with tentacles and glowing sauce. Now he was stuck in the medbay, and Jared had been the only human available to attend the opening ceremony. Just smile and don't say anything. Hellman had told him over the communicator. You're only there to show Earth's respect. Stay quiet, bow when they bow, and don't touch anything. That had seemed simple enough, but Jared had never been good at simple. The chamber was enormous, shaped like a dome of crystal and floating silver rings. Alien species from every corner of the galaxy filled the room. There were tall, thin beings made of gas, creatures with wings, others that shimmered like living light. And in the center of it all sat the most powerful of them, Queen Veara of the Linthri Empire. She stood over 9 feet tall, with silver-blue scales that shimmered in the light like a living waterfall. Her long limbs moved with grace, and her large, intelligent eyes seemed to see everything and everyone at once. She wore a robe made of flowing star silk and a crown that hovered above her head. Spinning slowly, Jared had no idea how beautiful or terrifying she was supposed to be. He just knew she was staring at him. He gulped. A soft tone played in the chamber. It was time for the ceremonial greeting. Each species had their own way of showing peace. The Linthri were next. The Queen stepped forward and spread her arms. A Linthri ambassador whispered to Jared, "The Queen wishes to honor your presence. She invites you to mirror her movements." Mirror her? What? But it was too late. Veara started moving. Slowly she raised one hand, then the other. She turned in a circle, bent one knee, and touched her heart. It was graceful, beautiful, and looked a bit like a dance. Jared tried to copy her bad idea. His human legs weren't built for balance. Like hers. When he turned, his foot slipped on the polished floor. He flailed, grabbed the air, and stumbled forward, landing on one knee. Right in front of the Queen, gasps echoed through the chamber. Jared looked up, eyes wide. He had just made a fool of himself in front of the entire galaxy, but Queen Veara smiled. A deep, glowing warmth filled the air. The Queen stepped forward, placed one elegant hand on Jared's head, and said in perfect galactic common, "I accept your proposal." More gasps, then silence. Jared blinked. Wait, my what? The Linthri ambassador clapped once, his voice booming. The ritual is complete. Earth offers their champion to unite with the Queen in sacred bond. Jared's mouth dropped open. No, that was not a proposal. I tripped. But it didn't matter. Across the galaxy, news started to spread. A human had just proposed to the Queen of the Linthri, and she had accepted. Back on the human ship, chaos broke out. Do you understand what you've done? Ambassador Hellman shouted, pale and shaking. That was the ancient Linthri courtship dance. It hasn't been performed in 1,000 years. The last time someone did it, 2 empires merged. I didn't mean to. I slipped. Well, you slipped your way into galactic politics, romance, and possibly war. Jared sat on the edge of a medical table, holding an ice pack to his head. Can't we just explain it was a mistake? Hellman sighed. In Linthri culture, intention doesn't matter. Symbol does. You did the dance, in public, in front of witnesses, and she accepted. That's as official as a treaty carved into the moons of Kalaneth, Jared groaned. So what happens now? You're being invited to the Linthri capital world. As her consort. Her what? Her chosen mate? You'll be treated like royalty. I don't even own a tie. 3 days later, Jared stood in a golden shuttle, approaching the Linthri homeworld. The planet glowed with soft blues and purples, wrapped in clouds that sparkled with psychic energy. Floating palaces drifted across the sky like ships made of light. This is insane, Jared whispered, staring out the window. The Linthri ambassador beside him smiled kindly. The Queen is most excited to see you again. I'm not ready to be part of an alien royal family. I don't know how to act or talk or mate. I don't even like dating humans." The ambassador chuckled. "Queen Veyara is wise. She sees something in you that perhaps you do not see in yourself." Jared snorted. "Yeah, a clumsy idiot who tripped into the galaxy's weirdest marriage." The shuttle docked in a vast palace that shimmered like crystal. Trumpets of pure light echoed in the air. Thousands of Linthari citizens bowed in silence as Jared stepped onto the grand walkway, and there she stood, Queen Veyara, waiting for him. She approached with calm confidence, her eyes locked on his. "Human Jared, you honor me with your presence." Thanks." "You too, I mean Queen Veyara." He tried to bow. Almost tripped again, she caught him by the hand before he could fall. "I have not laughed in many years," she said softly. "Until I met you." He looked up, surprised. "I do not yet understand humans," she continued. "But I wish to." "Starting with you." A crowd cheered in the distance. Lights flashed. Jared's communicator buzzed with panicked messages from Earth. There was no turning back now. Jared Thorne had never seen anything like the Linthari capital. The city floated in the clouds like a dream. Crystal towers rose into the sky, glowing with soft blue light. Roads made of energy shimmered under his feet. Strange birds with wings like silk flew between the buildings. Flowers blinked, hummed, and whispered thoughts in the wind. "It's like someone built a fantasy novel and then launched it into space," Jared muttered. Beside him, the Linthari ambassador smiled. "We call it Velis Telvira. It means the sky that sings. It also means I'm about to embarrass myself in front of an alien queen again," Jared said, adjusting the stiff royal robe they had put on him. It was heavy, covered in small glowing gems that blinked like tiny stars. "This thing itches." "You are to meet the Queen's royal circle today," the ambassador said. "They are curious about Earth's new bonded guest." "You mean consort?" "Same meaning, yes," Jared sighed. He hadn't slept well. His mind kept spinning with one thought: how did this happen to me? He was still the same guy who burned toast and forgot to water his plants. And now he was in a palace. In the sky. Engaged sort of to the ruler of an alien empire. No pressure. The Queen's throne room was even more beautiful than the city. It floated above a massive lake with waterfalls pouring out in all directions. The walls were made of crystal that shifted color as people walked by. Every sound echoed like music. Queen Veyara stood tall in the center. She wore a long robe made of silver light, and her crown hovered just above her head. Her eyes glowed softly as Jared approached. He tried not to trip. "Human Jared," she said, her voice smooth and calm. "Welcome to my home." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Jared said. He gave a nervous bow and held it just a little too long. When he looked up, he saw something strange. She was smiling. "Come," she said. "Meet those closest to me." The Queen's royal circle was made up of strange and powerful aliens. General Karen, a tall, armored warrior with dark red scales and a deep voice. He didn't seem to like Jared very much. Advisor Telra, a glowing being who floated instead of walked and communicated mostly through emotion. She sent Jared a wave of polite confusion. And then there was the High Priestess Vala, a slim, sharp-eyed woman with golden robes and a voice like cold wind. Her smile was thin and fake. "So this is the human who has captured our Queen's heart," she said. Jared gave an awkward wave. Hi, you must be very skilled," Vala said slowly, her eyes narrowing. "To win her favor with a single dance." Jared chuckled nervously. "It was actually an accident. I tripped." The room fell silent. Vala's smile froze. Queen Veyara, however, laughed a soft, musical sound that echoed across the room. "He speaks the truth. And yet sincerity is rare and beautiful." The others didn't look convinced. Later that evening, Jared was shown to his private room, though it was really more like a luxury apartment in the clouds. There was a glowing bed, a fountain that whispered calming thoughts, and windows that looked out over the floating city. Still, Jared couldn't relax. He paced the room, muttering to himself. Okay, think, you're not actually married. This is just a misunderstanding, a big one. Maybe you can talk to her politely, respectfully, and get out of this without starting a war. Just then, the door slid open and Queen Vayara stepped in. Jared jumped. Shouldn't you knock or something? This is your chamber, she said gently. But you are my guest, and my bondmate. Do you wish for privacy? No, yes, come in, it's fine. He sat awkwardly on the edge of the glowing bed. Vayara walked slowly to him. You are troubled, a little, Jared admitted. This whole bonding thing. I think there's been a mistake. I'm not some great warrior or leader. I don't even own a spaceship. I still live in my mom's old apartment. She sat beside him, folding her long legs. I did not choose you because of power or status. Then why? You are honest. You are brave in a strange way, and you make me laugh. That is a rare gift, Jared blinked. You ... because of me? I have led armies, fought in wars, signed peace. But I have not laughed in many years until you tripped and called my sacred dance some kind of yoga. Jared smiled. Despite himself, the next day, Jared visited the Linthery Research Hall, where alien scientists had been studying something odd. His DNA. One of the scientists, a jellyfish-shaped being named Dr. Newley, showed him a glowing diagram. There is a match between your brainwaves and Linthery psychic patterns. Very rare, 1 in 10 billion. Jared scratched his head. So ... we're compatible? Exactly. Emotionally, mentally, it could explain why the Queen formed the bond so easily. But I didn't do anything. That, Dr. Newley said, may be why it worked. But not everyone was happy about the bond. In a dark chamber. Beneath the palace, High Priestess Vala stood with a group of shadowed figures. She slammed her staff on the floor. This human is a threat to our traditions, she hissed. The Queen is distracted. We were close to war, and now she speaks of peace, of unity with Earthlings. A general stepped forward. What should we do? Vala's eyes narrowed. We watch, we wait, and if needed, we remove him. Back. In his room, Jared looked out at the stars. He was supposed to be a background guy, a quiet worker in a safe job. And now an alien queen liked him, trusted him. Maybe even ... He shook the thought from his head. This is crazy, he whispered. I need to find a way to fix this. Just then, his communicator buzzed. It was Earth's ambassador. Jared. Are you sitting down? Sort of. We just got word. The Linthery are sending a full delegation to Earth, and they're calling it a wedding tour. Jared dropped the communicator. Jared Thorne was beginning to understand one thing. In space, nothing is ever just for show. A few days after the Queen accepted his accidental proposal, Jared found himself standing in front of a glowing spaceship shaped like a winged spiral. Its doors were open. Waiting for him, the Queen's voice echoed in his head as she stood beside him, tall and calm. Today we travel to Vetharun, the sacred moon, Jared blinked. What now? The trial of sincerity, she explained. It is part of every royal bonding. You must complete it before our connection becomes permanent. Jared laughed nervously. Trial? Like a ceremony? No, a test, he gulped. How hard is this test? Many survive it, she said. With a smile, Jared didn't find that very comforting. The journey to Vatharun's spaceship was beautiful inside. Walls of crystal, cushions that floated, air that smelled like fresh rain. But Jared was too nervous to enjoy it. He sat across from Queen Vayara, hands sweating, eyes wide. I still don't understand, he said. What does this trial actually do? She looked at him, her silver eyes calm. You and I will be psychically linked for a short time. You will walk the maze of reflection. It will read your thoughts, emotions, and truths. You cannot lie to the maze. If your feelings are false, the bond will break. Wait, so this thing will know what I really think? Yes. Jared rubbed his face. Great, so the giant space maze is going to find out I'm a complete mess. I already know that, Vayara said kindly. He blinked. You do, she nodded, and I am still here. Arrival at the trial site of Atharun was a strange moon-dry and golden. with giant rock pillars shaped like twisting towers. The air hummed with quiet psychic energy. In the center stood the maze of reflection. It was not made of walls and doors. Instead, it looked like a storm of light, floating symbols, and turning mirrors. It felt alive. Jared stood at the edge, heart racing. So I just walk in? Vayara nodded. You will not be alone. I will link with you. You will feel me in your thoughts, and I will feel you in mine. No pressure, he muttered. Then he stepped forward. Inside the maze. The moment Jared entered the maze, everything changed. He was no longer standing on sand. He stood in a memory. It was his old apartment on Earth, dirty dishes in the sink, piles of laundry, a half-eaten pizza slice on the table. He turned, then saw himself sitting on the couch. Younger, more tired, looking lost. Why are you here? The younger Jared asked. I don't know, Jared said honestly. I didn't mean to be chosen. I didn't mean to dance. I didn't mean to bond with an alien queen. Then why are you still here? Jared paused. Because ... maybe I don't want to leave. The mirror version of him smiled, then faded. Then the scene changed again. He was in a memory from childhood. A school hallway, other kids laughing. Jared, standing alone, holding a science project. You're weird, a boy said. Shoving him, Jared felt the old shame rise in his chest. He had always been different, too quiet, too awkward, too curious, but now Vayara's voice echoed gently in his mind. Your thoughts are not weak, they are honest. Keep going. He moved forward. Now he stood before a tall glowing door. It pulsed with light and fear. He touched it, and suddenly he wasn't alone. Vayara stood beside him, though she was not real. She was part of his thoughts, a vision. She turned to him. You are afraid of being chosen. Yes, you are afraid. Of being loved, Jared looked down. Also yes. You think you are not enough, he closed his eyes. Every day. Then she reached out, touched his face. You are wrong. Jared opened his eyes, and the door opened. Light rushed in, outside the maze when Jared walked out. Hours later, he felt like something inside him had changed. He was still afraid, but he was not hiding anymore. Queen Vayara was waiting. Her eyes were wet with light. You saw my truth, Jared said quietly. And I saw yours, she replied. Are we ... Still bonded? Stronger than before, Jared smiled. Even after seeing how messy I am inside, especially because of it. They stood together in silence for a moment. Then something in the air shifted. A deep, cold wind passed through. The pillars. Vayara turned sharply. Something is wrong. The sabotage back inside the maze. Glowing cracks began to appear. The symbols flickered. The air trembled. Jared turned. Is it supposed to do that? No, Vayara said, voice tense. Someone has tampered with it. Suddenly, a psychic blast hit the side of the mountain. A floating drone crashed near. Them hissing and sparking from its remains, a voice came through, sharp, cold, familiar. This is High Priestess Vala. The bond is unnatural. It must not continue. The maze will collapse, and the human will be lost within it. That is the price of peace built on weakness. Vayara's eyes glowed with anger. She dares! Jared looked back at the maze. There's someone still in there. A guardian, she said. He will be trapped when it collapses? Jared didn't hesitate. And then I'm going in. The rescue Jared rushed back into the maze, ignoring the shaking ground and flickering lights. He followed the hum of thought until he found the guardian. A Linthari monk, trapped under a fallen pillar of light. Jared pushed with all his strength. Groaning, sweating. You do not have to save me, the guardian whispered. Jared grunted. Yes, I do. With one final shove, the pillar broke, and the monk rolled free. They ran out together. Just as the maze cracked open behind them and folded into nothingness, Jared collapsed outside. Gasping for air, Vayara knelt beside him, eyes wide. You? Could have died? Would have been a short love story, he coughed. Then she did something unexpected. She leaned forward and kissed his forehead. You are not what I expected. Jared Thorne, she whispered. You are much more. Back on the ship, the High Priestess's actions became public. News spread quickly, an attempted sabotage of a royal ritual. Even many Linthri began to question her leadership, but in private, Vala only smiled. The Bond survived, one of her allies said. Vala's eyes narrowed. Then we try something else. Jared stood at the window of the ship, looking down at the stars. He had survived the trial. He had been honest with himself. And he had chosen to go back and help Dot. Maybe, just maybe, he was more than he thought. And now, more than ever, he realized something. There was no turning back. Jared Thorne had faced many things in the past few days: a floating city, a sacred space maze, a royal bond with an alien queen. But now, standing in the middle of the Linthri royal court, with dozens of alien leaders watching him silently, Jared felt like he had walked straight into a trap, and he was right. The queen's voice rang out through the throne room, calm but sharp. Let it be known that Priestess Vala has betrayed the crown. She tried to sabotage the sacred trial. Her crimes will be judged. A low murmur passed through the crowd. Vhla stood nearby in gold robes, her face calm, not afraid, not angry. Calm like a snake that knows it will strike soon? You call it betrayal, she said softly, but I call it protection. The human does not belong here. He is not one of us. Jared cleared his throat. Still standing right here, by the way? Vala ignored him. This bond weakens you, my queen. It blinds you. The human will lead our empire to ruin. Queen Veara stepped forward. Enough! You do not speak for the Linthri anymore. The people will decide your fate. Vala smiled, but it was a cold smile. Yes, she said, they will. That night, everything changed. A full council meeting was called. Leaders from across the Linthri Empire arrived: warriors, scientists, priests, nobles. They came to debate the future of the bond and whether Jared should remain by the queen's side. Some were in favor, some were not, but many were afraid, and fear spreads quickly. Jared watched from a balcony. Standing beside Queen Veara, her face was unreadable, but her mind was tense. He could feel it now. Ever since the trial, their connection had grown stronger. You're worried, he said quietly. She didn't deny it. Vala has support. Some believe her lies. That you are a danger. I'm just a guy from Earth. I can barely cook rice. That is not what they fear, she replied. They fear change. Jared looked down at the crowd. And what if they vote against us? What happens then? Veara was silent for a moment. Then she said, they may ask me to break the bond. Jared's chest tightened. Can you do that? I can, but I won't. Even if it costs you a crown? She looked at him, eyes soft and bright. Even then. But that night, something worse happened. A rebellion began. A section of the city lights blinked out. Explosions sounded in the distance. Fire rose from the outer towers. Vala had made her move. Emergency alarms rang. Guards ran through the halls. Ships flew overhead in formation. Jared followed Queen Veara through the palace as chaos unfolded. Her commanders shouted orders. Shield barriers activated. Drones were deployed, but the enemy was already inside. In the palace garden, a small group of rebels appeared. Their weapons were strange, glowing with red energy. They wore cloaks with Vala's symbol, a cracked star. One aimed a weapon at the queen. Jared acted without thinking. He grabbed a guard's energy staff and swung it, knocking the attacker aside. The blast missed Veara by inches. Another rebel charge. Jared ducked, rolled, and clumsily tripped the alien with a lucky kick. He was not a trained fighter, but he was determined. Guards arrived moments later and took control. But the damage was done. The queen turned to Jared, stunned. You saved me, he smiled. That's what bondmates do, right? That night, after the rebellion was pushed back, the queen called a private council with her closest circle. Jared sat beside her, still in a dirty shirt and with a cut on his forehead. General Karen leaned forward. The attack was only a test. Vala wanted to see how far we'd bend. She come again, said Advisor Telra, her glowing form dim. And next time she bring more than rebels. The queen stood. Then we end this now. I will not lead an empire that allows fear to rule it. Everyone turned to her. We call for a final vote, she declared. Tomorrow. In the Hall of Thought. The people will choose whether this bond continues or whether I step down. Jared's heart sank. You don't have to do this, he said quietly. Yes, I do, she replied. If we run from this now, it will never end. That night, Jared couldn't sleep. He sat alone in his chambers, looking out over the glowing city. Fires had been put out. Ships hovered silently above. But tension still filled the air. He opened a small hollow device and recorded a message. To Earth, he began, just in case this ends badly. I want you to know I didn't plan for any of this. I didn't plan to meet a queen. I didn't plan to fall for her. He paused. Yeah, I said it. I fell for her. Maybe not the usual way, but I did. He sighed. And if I have to lose her, to protect what she stands for, I will. The final vote of the Hall of Thought was a massive crystal dome that opened to the stars. Inside, 100 voices echoed as leaders prepared to vote. Queen Veyara stood in the center. Jared stood beside her, dressed in formal robes this time. He still itched. High Priestess Vela stood at the far end, tall and silent. The speaker of the hall raised a hand. The issue: shall the bond between Queen Veyara and the human Jared Thorne continue? A vote of yes allows the bond. A vote of no requires it be broken. The votes began one by one. Crystals around the room lit up. Blue for yes, red for no. Red, red, blue, blue, red, blue. Was close, too close. Jared held his breath. Then the final vote lit up bright blue. The room went silent. A moment later, the speaker spoke, by narrow majority. The bond shall remain. Some cheered, some gasped. Vala stood still. Then, slowly, she turned and walked away. For now, she was defeated, but not gone later that evening. As the stars glowed outside the window, Queen Veyara turned to Jared. You could have left at any time. I almost did, he admitted. But I realized something. What? He looked at her. Maybe I don't belong here. Maybe I don't have powers or royal blood. But I choose to stand with you. That's stronger than accident, she smiled. Then stay. Not because the bond chose you, but because you choose it. He smiled back. I already have. They stood in silence, two souls from different worlds, now connected by something strange and real. And for the first time, Jared didn't feel lost. He felt home. Jared Thorne never thought he'd end up in space, much less standing beside an alien queen. He also never thought he'd fight in a royal trial, help stop a rebellion, or have a voice in a galactic empire. But here he was, floating above a beautiful blue moon, holding the hand of Queen Veyara, both watching the stars as the galaxy held its breath. Peace had returned to Lintheria. But not for long, because trouble was coming again, and this time it was from beyond their borders. The warning A message arrived in the middle of the night. A golden orb hovered into the queen's private chamber, glowing with strange heat. Jared was asleep, curled up on a floating pillow. He woke up to the sound of the orb humming. Veyara stood near the window, eyes serious. What's going on? Jared asked, rubbing his eyes. A message, she said. From the Villari system. That's not ours, right? She shook her head. No, it belongs to the unseen. Jared sat up fast. Wait, I thought the unseen were a myth. They were? Until now? The orb opened and a voice spoke in a language neither of them understood, but the meaning came through clearly in their minds. We have watched you. We have seen the bond between the human and the queen. We see it as weakness. You will surrender. Your rule, or we will take it. Then the orb burned into ash. The gathering storm, the unseen were real. And they were powerful. Ships began disappearing near the galaxy's edge. Communication with smaller colonies was lost. Psychic energy fields became unstable. The Linthri Empire had known war in the past, but this was something new. Something different. The unseen didn't come with armies. They came with silence. They erased their enemies. And now, they were coming. For Veyara, the queen called an emergency council. Jared stood beside her again, not as a warrior or a prince, but as a symbol, because the unseen didn't fear guns. They feared what he and Veyara represented. Love, she said to the council, is not weakness. It is our greatest strength. Jared is not just a human. He is hope. He is proof that different worlds can stand together. Some nodded. Others stayed quiet. Jared stepped forward. I don't have powers, he said. I can't fly a ship or move stars with my mind, but I'm not running, not this time. Not from them? And then he added something no one expected. If they're afraid of what we are, then I say we show them exactly who we are? The Queen's plan, the Queen's plan was bold. She would fly with Jared directly to the border, to a neutral space where the unseen were gathering. No fleets. No army. Just the Queen and her chosen. Message of peace or a final warning. The royal ship was smaller than most. Fast, silent, shaped like a bird of light. Jared sat in the co-pilot's seat, heart pounding as they left the safety of Linthery. Space. Still time to turn back, Vayara said with a smile. Not a chance, Jared replied. This is kind of our thing now, facing impossible odds? Exactly. The first encounter they reached the Villari border. At first, it looked empty. A dark, cold space full of stars. Then they saw it. A shape began to form in the dark, huge, shifting like a shadow made of smoke and glass. No lights, no sound. Just presence, the unseen. A voice entered their minds. You come without power, without weapons. Why? Vayara stepped forward. We come to speak. We do not speak. We erase. You fear what we are, she said. But we are not afraid of you. Jared stood beside her. You think love is weak? You think peace is soft? You're wrong. Silence. Then the voice spoke again. Then prove it. The final trial. Without warning, the ship was pulled into a field of energy. Lights swirled around them. Their bodies froze. Jared opened his eyes and found himself alone, not in space. But in a dark, endless field. The unseen were testing him. A voice echoed. You say love is strong. You say connection gives you power? Show us. Then images began to appear. Queen Vayara hurt, alone, surrounded by shadow. His home planet Earth falling into darkness. His fears failure. Weakness being left behind. He screamed, tried to run, but nothing moved. He was stuck in his own mind. Then he heard her voice. Soft, steady. Vayara. Jared, I'm here. Focus. He shut his eyes, focused on her voice, on her hand. Her laughter. Her trust in him. The darkness faded. Light broke through, and the unseen stepped back. The decision. They returned to their ship. No battle. No death. Only silence. And then one word. From the unseen. Accepted. The threat faded. The stars returned, and the Queen turned to Jared. Eyes shining. You did it, she whispered. He smiled. No, we did. The crown and the choice back on Lintheria. They were welcomed as heroes. The unseen had pulled back. Peace had returned for now, but then came a question, one Jared never thought about. What now? He asked her days later, as they walked through the starlit gardens. I offered my crown, Vayara said. I showed them I was willing to risk it all. You didn't lose it? No, but maybe I don't want to wear it alone anymore. Jared laughed nervously. I'm not exactly royal material. Perhaps not, she said, but you are something greater. You're honest, brave. You challenge me. She reached into her robe and pulled out a glowing pendant. Inside it was a symbol of Lintherian royalty split in two, waiting to be joined. If you choose it, she said, we rule together. Not as queen and consort, but as bondmates. Jared stared at it. His life on Earth flashed through his mind small. Lonely, ordinary, and now this. He looked at her, this strange, powerful, kind queen who saw something in him. Then he reached out and took the pendant. One final promise. The ceremony was simple. The people cheered. The skies lit with lights, but Jared only remembered one thing. Vayara taking his hand and whispering, no turning back now. And him smiling, replying, I never wanted to. From accidental dance to galactic peace, from a quiet human to a royal bondmate, Jared Thorne didn't just win the Queen's heart, he earned it, and the galaxy would never be the same.